and Marriage Detroit. New series premieres Saturday, June 24th at 9/8 Central on OWN.
How's it going, Carlos? My name is Nigel Chambers of Big Gold Belt Media. It's a pleasure to talk to you today. How you feeling?
I'm really good. How are you, man?
Good. Excited to talk about Love and Marriage Detroit, June 24th on OWN. So as soon as the series starts, we hear your voice, and this love letter to Detroit really has me intrigued. And I absolutely will say, in all full-blown guiltiness, I needed to hear that because I really do feel that there is a level of ignorance towards what Detroit is. And as you mentioned, the new Detroit, and there's been a lot of folks such as yourself that's been doing the hard work to really shift the focus back to Detroit for everything Detroit was known for, but also to let folks know that it's been taken to the next level, which to me, again, in ignorance, whenever you talk like that, everybody only talks about Atlanta, as if like Charlotte isn't there, isn't DC, isn't right there, and Detroit is obviously in this conversation as well. So with this show, and you really setting the table for it, what was sort of just that feeling and sort of that ambition in terms of like letting folks know like Detroit is the place to be?
It's everything you said. It was all about showing the world that Detroit is not what they thought it was. For the longest time, Detroit was known for the abandoned buildings and Devil's Night, right? Like all of these negative connotations. Yeah. And whenever I would go back home, because my family still lives there, so I go home at least once a year, at least. Mm-hmm. And I'm always surprised by the new buildings that's up in downtown Detroit, the Black-owned restaurants, Black entrepreneurs. And I knew that as long as I was able to continue on this effort of creating shows, I wanted to make sure to put the city back on the map in terms of being the go-to destination for a great nightlife. They got great clubs there, great party promoters. They got the casino. Detroit is thriving, and to have this large audience from the network, I am happy that I get to show the world that Detroit is back and is better than ever.
That's exciting. And instantly I was like, you know what? I need to take what I thought and get out there and see what's going on. I love with that the presentation of our couples here as an EP of this show. How can you tell me about how you go about the casting, shall I say? And while we may initially see three individual couples, there also are friends. There's connectability within all of them. So like this is a really extended process, I could imagine, because no one lacks. Every single individual person has a level of intrigue to them, a business aspect in mind to them, but also a personality that's worth watching. And then you put them together as a couple, and then you put them together as a group, and then you have a television show. How do you go about this casting here?
Yeah, it sounds hard, right? And yes. It's difficult to find people who are interesting enough to be on camera, number one. Yeah. But number two is much more challenging to make sure they have a history of friendships, a history of relationship just amongst their own marriages. So it was hard. It took us over a year to cast this show because I already knew. I said, look, if I put my city on the map, I already know all eyeballs would be on me. Like, Carlos, who are these folks, child? And you make sure Detroit looks good. So I took that seriously. It took over a year to find these people, but I'm happy with the end product. They are beautiful to look at, but also have a nightmare of issues they're dealing with, not only in their marriages, but with each other as friends. And the moment you think you figure them out, a surprise happens. It's a roller coaster of drama, of emotion, and everything that the audience loves about this franchise. You're going to see it in Detroit.
Yeah. As I was telling the Smiths earlier, my first exposure to Love and Marriage was DC. I'm from DC, so I was like, okay, well, let's see what this is, and I want to see how DC is being exposed, and obviously a fantastic 2 seasons here. Mm-hmm. And then coming to this now, I'm just like, okay, well, Detroit, as all of the thoughts of what Detroit, I was like, Detroit, like why Detroit? I'm like Miami, like anything else, but like coming into it though. I'm always happy to see, my brothers and sisters thriving And then what I definitely want to tip my hat off to you is that we've seen reality shows put us on television, exploit us, make us look messy. Obviously, somebody's making a check, but we see these folks really be deframed in a way that like really isn't a representation of how we are truly day to day. I love the fact that we do see them as parents and we see them as business owners. Yes, everything isn't right, and they're very much open about that, but we also can see that there's still a level of business to be had. How do you create that balance now, especially when these folks have not had any television experience here?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It's all about making sure they follow their own reality and what that means for them. I knew that casting all these couples throughout the franchise was going to be hard to do because you want to make sure that they're not playing to the cameras or they're not doing anything that feels like they're trying too hard to be relevant. And these couples, they don't do that. And I think a lot of that has to do with making sure you find a friend group who just don't do that in general. But what they do is have honest conversation amongst themselves and with each other. And that's how you separate a show from being, you know, what people may expect from a reality show. And these couples do that very well.
Yeah. With now Max, how does this play into what happens now with this television? And has there been conversations about expanding now you would think, you know, as a consumer, now that we're on Max, you're thinking like, okay, that's going to invite more eyes into all these different things. You're going to have which was formerly of HBO Max and Discovery Plus, now all in one platform together. So there's going to be more exposure to all of these shows. How does that play into now the release of this show and other projects to come forward?
You know, listen, I want to grow this franchise to be as big as my predecessors and, you know, not stop when it comes to exploring different territories across the world. So for me, it's a matter of making sure that the shows I have on the air, Huntsville, D.C., and now Detroit, are super successful, and to expand the brand into doing more cities. And like you said, we now have streaming. It'll be great to have one that may be on a streamer on Max. So it's a matter of always making sure you keep things fresh and interesting. And that also goes with providing the world with a cast that fulfills that. And the one thing about the network own, they support me, I support them, and we have a great relationship with each other. And I want to continue building that too.
Any early contenders for next city?
You know, there's a couple on my radar. A couple. You know, but I'll it's all about the casting. So we got to see if the cast brings it, because if not, it's a chop.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be on television, but again, that's why I enjoy this, because it isn't for lack of a better word, trashy reality television. Yeah, there's a lot of drama that happens, but like I'm connected to these characters, hearing them and they're, you know, talking about the challenges of communication, especially within our community. Hello, now that's going to sign me up any day to hear how you're working through stuff like that. But also, you know, great raising their families, and there's so many different things within this that I just really enjoy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that, and I can't wait for you all to see the rest of the season. So it's a really fantastic season.
Yeah. And I was going to say for my final question with that too. Yeah. When you talk about the season as a complete product here, what's some of the words that come to mind?
Surprising, thrilling, unexpected, shady, dramatic. I can go on and on, but at the end of the day, it's very real. It's very real, and I'm happy to show the world the real side of Detroit.
Congratulations, Carlos. And Detroit is back, man. Listen, from the BMF show to the documentary, folks have been tuning in to Detroit, learning about the history of Detroit, hearing about these legends and icons in Detroit. Now we're hearing about folks who have day-to-day lives. And I think that's going to really connect folks and drive people back to Detroit, another place of Black excellence, folks.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
And it's true.
Absolutely. Folks, check out Love and Marriage Detroit, making its season premiere June 24th on Carlos. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you so much.
It.
Yep.
Thank you.